Good afternoon. My name is Supreme Apostle Baksay. I am Supreme Apostle of the Supreme Lord Jesus Christ in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, centered in Salt Lake City, in Utah, in the U.S. This time from an Apple store at a Covent Garden. We now are working on a project. Some members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints may be translating to Heaven's Glory and are sent to heaven earlier as at this time in 21st century, since year 2000, representing Thomas and Simon will announce. Officially, it was so announced, like it was not very important to speak about at this time. When may I say sometimes later. We actually realized it's supposed to be announced more appropriately. So we decided to make the channel to we might have friends that will navigate us to more information, to get more information, to get the information, to collect the knowledge and wisdom about our translation to heaven so it makes sense to heaven. So since the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was restored on earth in 1820, or between 1920 and 1830, that was firstly to Joseph Smith. We was hearing the stories, the rumors that Joseph Smith could not comprehend the gospel and was eventually found and reported dead, and then he eventually, until this time, is not at this time in heaven as a soul, as Jesus Christ is in heaven, but he is in sort of state of being dead. So we actually decided to leave and to be transferred to Ascension to heaven. So as we were studying about Brigham and Johnson of Wilford Lawrence Snow, Joseph was having in Grand Georgia was David McKay, Joseph Lewis is held with his sense of as it's a Benton and how to behind the government of the Johnson and also we realized there is not much change there. All those until Thomas Manson was reported dead and later decomposed, or that they actually was reported dead then. So if they are sent, we would like to know, we would like to get some more information what was happening with Joseph Smith and Brigham Young since they was reported dead, if they was already resurrected, or we also was at a funeral broadcast of President Gordon Hinckley and Sister Marjorie Hinckley. I actually maybe didn't see the broadcast of her funeral, so she's maybe in heaven as a Relief Society member. Or maybe Sister Frances Bell Johnson Monson, I see the funeral in photographies. And maybe there was also video watched. So we think that there needs to be some change in Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as we experiencing on this sort of military militia actions of presidents of first presidents in Joseph Smith's time, and then the consequence of death of these members. So maybe we need to keep the word of wisdom some more, or maybe we should change the emphasis from crucifixion of Jesus Christ and from atonement of Jesus Christ and resurrection of Jesus Christ to transfiguration of Lord Jesus Christ and ascension of Lord Jesus Christ. Maybe we should not focus as much on the details of Jesus Christ being killed um, as the General Authority Officer of Jesus Christ. Since Joseph Smith was emphasizing the sufferings of Jesus in our behalf, because we may maybe invite also government leaders that might not be as much focused on the sufferings of Jesus. If somebody will make mistakes and speak about these sufferings of Jesus, that he was dying for his disciples, we might forgive that person. But as experts for Jesus Christ, we may be focused and emphasize that Jesus Christ is infinite and eternal, and he is almighty, all-wise to forgive us if we ask, or to tell us how can we be forgiven, and he can forgive us. The world was costing him by his own agency to choose what to do to have such a position or to have that experience on earth as he wants to. It is not as important to emphasize. And I believe that if we apply this the simple and plain rules of the gospel of Jesus Christ to state that Super Elohim and Super Yahweh, infinite eternal, can forgive us in the name of Supreme Lord Jesus Christ, we be blessed therefore. in the name of the Supreme Lord Jesus Christ, and accept the supremacy. Now, general boards in the Church of Jesus Christ, the Lord says. So if we go studying about Joseph and his militia, then about Brigham Young and his Wild West, and then came John to the Wilford Lawrence Snow, Joseph F. Smith, and First World War. So Wild West, that was actually also with Wild East because there was a civil war in time of Brigham Young. So Brigham Young University was glorious university, is glorious university, but now we have these Wild West stories of Brigham Young. We have here these wars, like Civil War of Brigham Young, and we maybe need to repent from the sins of Joseph Smith and his militia, and from the sins of Brigham Young and his Wild West and Civil War in United America. Then came the Wilford Woodruff, Lawrence Snow. They was changing the laws of the Church of Jesus Christ, and they said that it is not lawful anymore to have more than one wife, and that they cannot comprehend. So then came the Joseph F. Smith with his First World War, and Herbert Grant with Second World War, and then came David Mackay after George Albert Smith, David Mackay with his Cold War, and I actually one that would repent from the sins because all these presidents was reported dead and decomposed, and their wives and their spouses eventually also dead and decomposed. So if we want to be translated atmospheric sin to heaven, we need to repent. So what can we do with that? Then we change food menus. Menus in the church headquarters, in the cafeterias of the church, menus on the refreshments of the church, in stake, in mission. It is not dictatorial. It is the invitation. It is actually not a commandment, not contrite, but it is rather force of persuasion. So maybe high council, or maybe just the bit of bishop. So as a council by councils, right? What we can do is that we will change the farming procedures and also in cafeterias in the shopping orders, and we will order, shop, and farm only vegan farming. At the vegan farming, we will not use animals for any cruelty actions like testing on animals. That was maybe not in the church, but killing animals for food or for leather, for skin, also allowed. Then we may do so to say to Jesus Christ that we are grateful for the gospel of Jesus Christ, and we are grateful for the story of Adam and Eve. Because Adam and Eve, our first parents, they was westward from Garden of Eden, and they was taught to multiply, replenish the earth, subdue the earth, and have dominion of the fish, of the fish in the sea, fowl in the air, creeping things, so that we might forgive one another easily. There is also written that we ought to partake ultimate of those hurts that are pleased unto the sight of God and good for in the sight of fruit for thanksgiving. So this is in the book of Moses, first book of Moses, second book of Moses. What was happening to Moses? According to New Testament, Jesus Christ was transfigured on a mount and was showing his eternal glory to Peter, James, and John. Jesus Christ was there conversing with the Supreme Elohim and Supreme Yahweh with them to in the future. Reportedly, the people supposed to think that Jesus, according to Caesarea Philippi setting, was conversing with Moses and with Eliah. Thinking Moses and Eliah, Elijah, was eventually recognized as representative for Elohim Yahweh, or Elohim Yahweh was wrongly identified, and there are two options drafted in that Elohim Yahweh was wrongly identified. First, saying that the Elohim was only sending Moses and Eliah, and now there's the answer there. Moses was teaching to partake only of herbs in Old Testament, first book of Moses and Genesis mainly. With the other books of Leviticus, they already was killing animals and eating, so there was Moses found dead. But Moses was reported that he ascended to heaven. I mean, maybe Moses was first saying correct, and then he was teaching death to his neighbors to kill them all, Zipporah inclusive. So he was killing all his wives, or maybe a great part of his wives, and some of the young wives was then sent to Israel. And what was happening to them in Israel in those wars that Joshua needed to do in those times after Moses ascended to heaven from Mount Nebo, that's what is quite unclear, but maybe they already ascended. There was this ancient already announced, let us believe that if we will keep the word of wisdom, that we might have more easiness to recognize how can we ascend to heaven. There might be the person once who decides still to do cruelty to animals, to kill them in the church farms, and to buy some more of dead animals to eat them or to dress themselves in such a leather dress. I, at the moment, am dressed only in vegan dress, so each piece of my dress is vegan. I'm grateful that the garments of the Holy Priestess are all vegan. And if we have wool on, there is vegan to have wool. It is possible to love animals. Those trading animals, they can learn to love them. Those who have pets at home, some of them, or many of them, most of them, they know how to love animals. And they can get a hair of animal also lovingly, so they can get a wool dress without really killing animal or taking the whole skin away to dress into the skins. Maybe at the beginning animals was killed to dress the Adam, but what was happening then to children of Adam until they get a cotton dress or a hemp dress, or until they was getting the celluloid dress from celluloid, a whole fiber and such. So that's what we can think there in Genesis chapter 4, the first book of Genesis chapter 4, there is written what the letter was cost, and we hope that Adam was ascended to heaven before Enoch, but we are not quite sure if Enoch was first ascending to heaven or Adam, as Enoch we believe he was dressed in such a dress as Jesus Christ, and was a leather-free dress. Now we have reminding that Jesus maybe was not in wooden shoes, that he had maybe leather shoes and leather belts. So we need to check with Jesus what he was dressed, leather. So Jesus was forgiven for leather, we may also be forgiven. So let us believe that we may also fishing, as Jesus was doing fishing, we're killing off fishes. Yeah, it's not such a great crime. Some killings chases people that may be forgiven. Well, we can persuade Jesus Christ that we might have easier times. We don't know what happened to Peter, James, and John. John reportedly ascended to heaven. Some saying that Peter was crucified. Some saying that Peter was um, ascending. So let's say first ascending, hopefully Peter was on ascending. Paul was spoken that he ascended. Some were saying that he was crucified. Some that he ascended. So maybe he ascended. So let us believe that even though they were killing fishes and eating fishes, that they didn't need to be crucified as Jesus from left skin, and Jesus infinite and eternal Lord didn't need to suffer for us if he was not wanting special cruelty of animals. Now, those who want always cruelty of animals and war, they may need to be crucified, but maybe Jesus Christ will atone for them. For instance, Gordon Hinckley, he was always cruel to animals, always killing animals. And what was happening to Joseph Smith or to Gordon Hinckley? So we know that they were not crucified, but they're in such a state of decomposition that if I come to the grave of Joseph Smith or Brigham and lift their hand, maybe I will hold only finger or only hand, and the whole arm will stay there. So that's what we actually like there. And we ascend to heaven first, and also then later Gordon Bernard Hinckley and Joseph Smith may ascend. And how can we prevent children in a Church of Jesus Christ lessons, primary or youth, to be instructed by Joseph Smith and by Thomas Spencer Monson to die? So how can we prevent such mistakes in the church to happen? How can we rescue the children, the primary and youth of the Church of Jesus Christ lessons, the youth and children in the Church of Jesus Christ lessons might not be programmed by President Monson to die? So we maybe speak to governors in the United States of America Congress and to the United States of America President as chief judge, and they maybe may prevent us from such a wrong doctrines of President Monson as dangerous doctrine. And in American Constitution, it may be stated clearly that the American Constitution is constituted for citizens of the United States of America to be translated to heaven's court and to ascend to heaven as dictates of the conscience, and that to that help us God, or because we trust in God, and God we trust, therefore we will submit our citizens to ascend to heaven as a primary function of the Constitution of the United States of America. So the Constitution of the United States of America is stating such things, we literally know that it is so, but it is maybe equivocally or so if you read the American Constitution, it is sort of equivocation. So we need to get into an unequivocal level where it is very clearly and plainly stated at the beginning of the Constitution, the Constitution of the United States of America serves citizens of the United States of America, so citizens of the United States of America may as early as possible, approximately around the age 33 since birth, 33 summers or 33 years since birth, to be absolutely determined to ascend to heaven as followers of Jesus Christ. So that's our God. Some Americans doesn't know who is God. Some saying that God is someone else, Jesus Christ. Some saying that God is higher than Jesus Christ. Some saying that Jesus Christ was already exalted and is God too, and that they are one Father and the Son, one God without end. And that's what we believe today. God is always accepting us to Him as His children, and the American Constitution can also adopt some parts of Transfiguration of Lord Jesus Christ and Ascension of Supreme Lord Jesus Christ personally to quote from the Bible. Also, some commandments to American citizens to be perfect, as heaven is perfect, are helpful. Why am I speaking about American citizens if I'm a European citizen? We are NATO citizens, so we live in North Atlantic Treaty Organization and in the boundaries. So I'm Slovak citizen. Slovaks are also part of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and we are extremely influenced by American military. We have American military in Italy, in Germany, maybe also in England, some in Cardiff. There's maybe American military base, and maybe there are too many weapons, too many soldiers of the United States of America all around. So, because we not want only peace, we want peace. But not only peace of course, peace of mind, we want also such complete peace, heaven on earth, as in heaven and ascension heaven. And therefore, we all citizens of the North Atlantic Organization, if we stand in need of help, we can turn for help to Supernova or Supernova, and then we have the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints governing over all the world with all their militaries, also in Turkey, also in Greece, and who knows, this American fleet, they can appear sometimes in North Germany, sometimes in Italy, at the coast, anywhere. So we actually looking forward that we might have some more of freedom. So therefore, we need to speak of United States of America as an important partner. And the United States of America Constitution is one of the most important constitutions. As I've seen the European Union President and European Parliament, as they're squeezed between those weapons of the United States of America, between fleets, and they say that there is a peace. It is just few soldiers in Germany, and they can't be there since the Second World War, and there's only few American soldiers in Italy, and it is fine, and it is peace. No, it is real peace, and if they have such expensive weapons like lasers of the United States of America, or this missile system that are even stronger than a Russian revolutionary gun named Katyusha. So even America's got even some strong missile systems that I reportedly was hearing of. There's such strong guns that if American president wants, within about 15 minutes, both of the buildings of European Parliament will be destructed by some completely destroying missiles. So I can imagine that if I am European president, and if any Mormons from America with American president moving against me, I'll say there is peace. There is such a glorious peace. And we don't have any soldiers of the United States of America occupying us in the European Union. We have here only peace and joy and pleasures and letters and such wonderful dictature of the United States of America. So therefore we're thinking of the Constitution of America whether we might finally have ascension to heaven. Let's think that there is already 21 centuries since the birth of Jesus Christ, and Jesus was already ascending first century since the birth of Jesus Christ, as he was 33 since his birth. So is it not already time for us also to ascend? And if we already ascend, would it not be easier for Brigham Young and his Wild West scenes and his Civil War scenes to ascend? Or Joseph Smith with his militia instruction to Brigham Young and to John Taylor and to Bill Porter and to Lawrence Snow with their, anti-marriage settings that men can marry only one woman. Therefore, Bill Porter or Johnson Porter, Lawrence Snow was having their one woman and they was hiding her, and a person could not marry until they eventually was married. But when they was married, then after a few seconds or a few minutes or after a few decades. So I'm already 34, I'm not in marriage, so I found already criminal act of United States of America president with all his military around. I found it worthy of opening up courting with the United States of America government. I would like to marry, and I feel really in terror of United States of America weapons. And terror of Mormons too, because we have members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that are peaceful, and then we have the general Mormons that they read in the book of General Mormon. That Mormon, he was actually a wild place, a wild beast, and good waters, and he was prohibited to preach the gospel. Sometimes 400 years or 360 years after Jesus Christ was born. And at that time, Mormon was prohibited to preach the gospel, therefore he was chosen to be general, and he was killing Lamanites, and he was striking with swords, and maybe killed up to 1,000, and some of them was only 16 years of age. And Mormon maybe was propagated by Monson, right? And Monson said so, or by Jeffrey or Holland, and Mormon therefore thought, by the advocacy of Monson and Holland, about Jeffrey Holland, they claim they are special apostles and special witnesses. Well, also Monson also Holland says no, that I'm crowning witness, a crowning apostle, a supreme apostle of Supreme Lord Jesus Christ. So I am actually in heaven above them. So I shall be already elected above the quorum of his presidency, and I'm also candidate for United States of America as soon as I get the legislation done according to the laws of the United States of America. So we need to think that there is a time to open up courting with on international courts of justice in Hague in Holland, right, Jeffrey Holland, and we need to think that in Hague there need to be already stated there sentence or paragraph trespass against human rights as the United States of America president. I actually wish the United States of America presidents better time, but if they trespassing against the human rights, if they forbidding weddings, attendance to the church, as well as meat, they're also forbidding meats, and they really have many weapons all around Europe and around the world to really get that done. That meat prohibited, and some of the meats was really poisonous, but some of the meats was just such meat that Jesus Christ was permitted to eat, and that's what we need to be very careful about what meats to be permitted, what prohibited, and if let's say President Monson in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints terrorizes members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints here in Europe, and President of the United States of America is permitting him, then President of the United States of America also have the same guilt as President Monson. So they need to check very well not only the internal politics of the United States of America, but because of the weaponry systems that are deposited outside of the United States of America, and number of soldiers and stratagems and all these historical fames of United States of America as destroyers of the other nations, or crashers of other nations' bodies in place. So we need to therefore get there some humanity orders. We need to get there into the Constitution of the United States of America, constitutional lawyers that are also outside of the United States of America. So in American Constitution that was very clearly stated that between the love homes and war desolation was meant sometimes in 1700 and 18th century. Now modern Constitution of the United States of America needs to be said and him inclusive that it doesn't abuse the other nations or the other unions. And we are in not as a territorial organization, and it needs to be that it's also Russian Federation, Ukraine, Belarus will help us with the United States of America president, that he will set their laws in the United States of America so that we outside of the United States of America will feel free to believe in Jesus Christ, to be translated to heaven's glory, and to ascend to heaven, and also be free to marry within the Orthodox Church organization also the American citizens. And I am really born in a lineage that is pure as Jesus Christ's lineage is pure. I mean, there's only Israel lineage, or of those white posterity of Enoch, the whitest posterity of Enoch, and that is really true that Jesus Christ is not Chinese lineage. That I'm close relative to Jesus Christ, and I'm almost the same as Jesus Christ. I mean, there is difference between some African lineages and Jesus Christ, and there's difference between some Arabian lineages and Jesus Christ, and some Hindu lineages and Jesus Christ. So we are almost Jesus Christ. So they need to be set the order of Jesus Christ in every family. If you're just mixing the races and mixing the families without order, that is not order of Jesus Christ. So we ought to apply Christian orders in the constitutional law, also in United States of America, as we have here dictatures of these general authorities of Mormon, General Mormon, that lives 360 years after the birth of Jesus Christ. That is 4th century since the birth of Jesus Christ. And at that time, there was already some bishops. There was maybe parents of Bishop Patrick from Ireland, but there was some bishop of Christianity in Europe and in Minor Asia. So it's believed that not only the word of wisdom, but also Ascension to heaven. I mean, mainly Ascension to heaven, right? So word of wisdom might be helpful. Inviting people to have some needs and have some needs not is also helpful. If they're really poisons, recognize the list of poisons, or if it's a really dangerous meal for drivers or for others, that might be maybe sort of restricted. But if it is such a meal that is traditionally esteemed in heaven and on earth as healthy meal, I think there shouldn't be any extremism. As ever, also Apostle David Adam Bednar, that has got a Slovak name. David is Slovak name, adapted from Bible, as Slovaks had ever Bibles translated to their own accent. Already 863 of our counting since the birth of Jesus Christ. So David was adopted. Adam also adopted from the Slovaks from Bible, as Slovaks had already the language in written form since Bible was translated 863 of our counting. We have here, for instance, English Bible officially omitted by the British Kings of England 1500 first time. So that's 16th century, and that's over 700 years after Slovaks adopted the Bible. So we need to have the recognize that Anglicans are important people and have many weapons all around the world. But is it good for mankind and for Anglicans to be a president on this planet? I'm sure that it is not. Anglicans can have a minor function in government. Like, for instance, on the General Board of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, there can be one Anglican who can be presiding bishopric. But if we have Anglican presidents over the general boards of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we almost had a nuclear war. We have nuclear heads in 183 years. The crazy person named Thomas Spencer Monson, he had made about 5 wars, and he killed in each war at least one small child that didn't need to be killed if that crazy president named Thomas Spencer Monson was not making those wars. And we have many others that are with President Monson, sustaining him in that sin and coordinating the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and others with those wars, and also with other burdens and yokes that are really grievous in war. And we need to say that lawyers can be in a church, but they need to sort of believe in Jesus Christ, yeah, and repent from the sins of this world. Now we have another subject, the equality of the household of heaven, as Jesus Christ was second time already among us. We adopted this gratefully from the Bible, from the Book of Mormon. All the scriptures are also in the Bible. Those reading the Bible might feel free to discover these facts, as Joseph Smith discovered as he was trying to translate this golden plates that he received at Hill Cumorah, that was so famous among middle-aged kings. They all wanted to go there to America on the river of Lorraine River to the lake where the Hill Cumorah is nearby. I don't remember, I have forgotten completely my geography needs to be refurbished, my geographical knowledge. So I've forgotten where is it Ontario? No, it's not Ontario, it's Erie Lake, no, also not Erie Lake. But one of the, it's Huron, also no, sorry, one of the lakes is there nearby Hill Cumorah. Niagara Falls also are not too far from Hill Cumorah. It's only about 1,000 miles, right? 200 miles. Well, I get the geography, I promise I would like to. At least in heaven I'll get that just by the permission of Super Elohim. Maybe also now. So let us think, how can we administer equality? So let's say President Monson is not very wise because he kills animals, he's cruel to animals, organized wars, he does Vegas casinos, he does porno, he actually employs workers' powers unlawfully of many members and non-members, and he shows in pornography and tempts people. So that's how Monson is rating. That's really crazy enemy of Christ, Antichrist. And he said to many, or to me too, that he wants to tempt people to sins because there is no war, and he needs to kill those children because he needs to somehow die. That's how approximately President Monson was speaking there. Also, General Conference, that everyone needs to die. Now that's really Antichrist. That's not a Christian. So in Christianity, in the disciples of Jesus Christ was ascending age 33. So we, disciples of Jesus Christ, also need to ascend approximately in that age. And our children and youth need to be taught exactly the same knowledge that we supposed to be translated to apostolic ascent to heaven. I'm 34, under the harassment of the terror of the young women of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day and the supporting Christian Muslims in their state, their weapons are really extremely heavy all around, and we need to, all the heads of the countries, also British monarch, is under the danger of those weapons. Also, European president claims there is no state of war with America, even that they have occupants and occupied soldiers, generals, military groups and military bases and naval bases and air force bases and army bases in Germany and in European Union as in several places. Also in Yugoslavia there are military bases of the United States of America. So we're not saying that the immediate is too far. They're not, because I also am candidate for election of President of America. But to be some advice regarding the explanation of the Constitution of America and to adapt those lovely charitable parts of the Gospel of Lord Jesus Christ into the constitutional law or into the Constitution of America is necessary because it is so there. It's also Joseph Smith wanted to ascend but was crushed into sorts of militia massacre of what was they having there between Nauvoo and Carthage, and then it was militia war, right? And then they had there also was Brigham Young, the Civil War, and what was already said. So let us therefore think that there is a way for us to apply the Constitution of the United States of America also in European Union, as we are here under this sort of terror of the military base of the United States of America. There are naval, army, and air force bases here with very dangerous weapons, with missile systems that are nuclear and also maybe hydrogenium, maybe also they use it. I'm not sure about all the arsenal of the United States of America in Europe, but there might be also some missile systems that are 3,000 kilometers reach from the United States of America to easily reach Europe. So if you are in this terror of their, of their constitution, whereas America, let us think if there is no space in the American Constitution, that there will be not only saying make poverty history, and and then attacking somewhere in Afghanistan or maybe in uh, Manhattan. There was some towers attacked in 2001. I was actually in a rescue brigade. Slovak Republic was candidating for North Atlantic Organization membership. In between, they are members of the candidate country. Now we're a member country, and I was at that time in a rescue brigade, in 71st Rescue Brigade. And I remember as it came, I was actually maybe even in service. I was maybe in service. We had no ammunition, but we had a gun store to look for. We had only small guns, such very small pistols, and we had such small rifles that are very light. And I was actually in service in 70 rescue brigade, so we was mostly there as firefighters, but we had the techniques and people to guard. So because of the Second World War experience, the technique was also attacked by some parachutists or by some bombers, maybe parachutists mainly. So it was also distributed as rescue brigade, such small weapons as automatic rifles. And I was maybe accurate to guard it, and I remember it came in television, it was accurate in barracks viewing. It was not, well, I was there in barracks, and maybe I was accurate not and guard, but I was just having maybe free time, and it came in television there. It's United States of America President George W. Bush and President Gordon B. Hinckley with um, Thomas Fitzmaurice and Janet Faust was as friends of Al Qaeda attacking the World Trade Center, and it was reportedly by two airplanes. And I think as I was starting to watch, there was only one tower in flames, and while I was watching, there was coming another airplane, like in a second, and it was seemingly it was maybe I didn't even recognize what sort of jet it is, but it was looking like a jet airplane, and um, and then and then that was war with Afghanistan. So I'm not saying that President of the United States, George W. Bush, shall be guilty forever for such action of FBI and CIA, or the action of FBI mainly as it was within a country, or the first presidency shall be guilty forever. But I think that there is a way to restitute after such a first attack and after such a war in Afghanistan, and that there are dictators here on this earth. We know the Americans are real dictators by military force that is really great, and that they dictate to Al Qaeda what to do, and then they bless them they are Mormons, and Mormons are good generals, right? They sacrifice themselves, they want to pray with Mormons. So that's what we will not like. We will like the members of the Church of Jesus Christ in Latter-day Saints are really good, but not always so good as generals to organize the war. Like ruled the center in Manhattan against Afghanistan, and then from Afghanistan they will have good then, or they will not. They will have good there after that, but will come for good, right? And so that's what we actually looking forward to. That we may have here heaven, so that everything heaven, ascension to heaven, and therefore the American Constitution needs to come also with international affairs. Also, American hymn is influencing worldwide, so there needs to be that. There will be somewhat more space for equality. Now, equality of the household of heaven, as Jesus Christ Lord among us, doesn't say that every white man needs to marry African woman, or every African woman Chinese man, or every Chinese man European woman. Doesn't it all mix races? No, it's not written. Also in Bible, there's written there are some families that are Europeans, and some families that are Africans, and some families that are Hindus, and some families that are Chinese. And Jesus loves us so very much that we can love God with all our heart and mind and strength, and our neighbors ourselves. And we can permit Chinese to live in China, and they don't need to mix with whites nor with Africans, but they can have the Chinese family in China. And if they can fly around the world, that may be possible. If Africans may fly around the world, that may be possible. But it needs to be always permitted for whites to marry white, and not to be drawn for whites to global powers with other races. So there needs to be some sort of protection of these family values that Jesus Christ had as Israel, protected by Romans as white people, and Jesus Christ himself was creating all the earth and all what is within it, all was applied, all the nations Jesus Christ created. So he actually was permitting us to be translated of his Lord and sent them to be liberated from all the dictators like Moses, or to be liberated from the Constitution of the United States of America. If it is not written as perfectly, it needs to be at least interpreted perfectly so we can be translated of his Lord and sent to heaven. And Jesus Christ was shown by examples that it is possible to not be African, even that his forefather was living in Africa. He was white Israeli. And many were saying that he was looking as President Obama, but he was not. He was really beautiful. He was almost blonde. How beautiful he was. And his eyes was black, according to records of those seers, but it was really as a flame of fire. So I think that he said that some people can accomplish even more beauty than he himself accomplished at those times, also to his eyes, and can have even eye white, also if they are named Shiloh. So Jesus Christ is infinite eternal. He can also explain that Shiloh, Shalom, and Zion, me, Super Apostle Baksay, can also have eye white, and eye rainbow blue, or light green, or green, and we can have also some people to have even more beautiful eyes as Jesus could have at those times. But because you said that even greater acts we can accomplish, so also greater beauty can be accomplished. In heaven it is so that Jesus is the most beautiful. So in this absolute judgment of whole universal judgment of absolute space and absolute power of God, Jesus Christ is most beautiful than supreme and super, more beautiful, most beautiful. Then come me, most beautiful, and then also those other glorious apostles that are supreme, like Enoch that was walking with God, and so God took him to the first book of Moses, Genesis chapter 5, verses 18 to 24. And also Moses and Eliah and Peter, James, and John, or if there was any Alma or any of the 9 Nephites or 12 Nephites, pardon, 3 Nephites, 9 Nephites, 3 Nephites. So if there was any sorts of other Nephites or any of those people that was disciples of Jesus Christ, they can also be most beautiful. So here on earth, we have told that we need to have sometimes somewhat of sense of the law of Jesus Christ to understand the love of Jesus Christ really perfect, and that's how we shall use American Constitution. That if anybody wants to marry, it needs to be permitted to marry, and if anybody wants to eat meat, it needs to be permitted that meat to be distributed. It needs to be such meat that is really healthy, so it cannot have it's, any sort of Monzon's slave or any Monzon's disciple will take a poison meat and will go to the person and will say that I know that you want this poison meat, and they'll actually bring it to him. So that's not. What he has is all that food that is Please come to the site of Supreme Lord Jesus Christ. The good food in the site of Supreme Lord Jesus Christ is good for us to eat, not anything what Monson said or what they're also the Church of Jesus Christ of us. Not anything what Monson said or informal protocols is also not, but all the what Jesus Christ reveals to us, or the what he has discovered that Jesus Christ did reveal to us. That's what we need to understand as the trustworthy are all those that ascend to heaven approximately age 33, or that are famous that they desire to ascend to heaven since they are 33 anytime. But I now also am desiring to ascend to heaven immediately. So I hope that Jesus Christ will send his mighty angels and his mighty powers or his hosts from heaven to make it possible for me to immediately ascend now, immediately, or now in this moment to highest heaven. So I actually inquire well to the equality that's approximately $700,000 for each member and interest record child per week. $700,000 shall be distributed to every member and every interest record child per week by the responsibility of the government of the Church of Jesus Christ in Latter-day States and governments in the countries like United States of America or countries that are members of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization or countries in the European Union and Russian Federation, Belarus, and other countries that shall have set at the existential minimum by responsibility of the government of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as well as government of the countries where the person is citizen or is residing or is to be found to be $700,000 equivalent per week. Why so high? Just check family Windsor, his dating last. Just President Monson, if he finds it easy with the authority he holds, and I'm testifying to you that we have the same responsibility as President Monson, if we have so much, but we need to seek such responsibility to ascend to heaven, and that Jesus Christ there, he was crucified himself, or there, and he needed only one city, and that's true that to have one city is really quite a lot. So they had all things in common. I mean, there was others of that, and if there was equity to us, we speak about this bank system as the prices are now according to market prices, and if the everything is distributed, I will not speak about it, but President Monson as terrorists, as really dangerous terrorists that use military forces to organize wars and criminality, need to be detected by Interpol, need to be detected by FBI, and also by international affairs experts to be identified, to be detected, and to have their mind changed from the wars and from the criminality of President Monson, from terrorism President Monson, towards the liberty that we are permitted not only by the Constitution of the United States of America, as we have so many soldiers and so many military bases of the United States of America, also in Europe, but also the European Union, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and the neighboring countries and other countries that we may have that liberty to ascend to heaven and to have such a commonwealth, or rather excellent wealth, that we may feel worthy to ascend to heaven, that we may not be tyrannized by any monster and any poor state that is swearing them, because Jesus Christ was crucified there for all people into eternal poverty and to graves. That's not. So Supreme Apostle Baksay is saying clearly that because of Jesus Christ's infinite eternal, we shall ask him for forgiveness in the form of equalizing and comforting one another and granting to one another that wealth that is not only common but excellent wealth. So each of us can have a large house that is at least $1 million, according to market price of 2014, April 2014, General Conference in April 2014, market price of large houses is approximately $10 million. There are also houses for $50 million. That's what really permitted that people have. So if they have 700,000 per week, it's not to save money or to set there. There's order that they can pay, for instance, 200,000 per week. From 700,000 per week, 200,000 per week for a house until it's paid. Carriage, I would like to have Hammer. I would like to have for 1 million Hammer, perfect equipment. I would like to have Bugatti for 1 million or 2 million. I would like to have McLaren. I would like to have supersonic jet with vertical takeoff. My own parking place. My own port for supersonic jet with vertical takeoff. Helicopter. So all these wishes are not seen. I mean, I also wish to Jesus Christ. I also wish to other citizens of the United States of America. And of course, if there's no space, we need to create some sort of rotation So all those two wealthy people will learn humility that also others should have instead of this wars and criminality that they were doing until now. I will not mention which celebrity did any criminality instead of equality, but President Monson knows them all, and there's just one sort of President Monson to protect the members of the Social Discussion License, not only to survive in some sort of state of poor person or poorest person, but it needs to be the President Monson excellently blessing members of the Social Discussion License and increasingly children of the Social Discussion License, also investigators and friends of the Social Discussion License with Commonwealth, as well as with excellent wealth and with equality. So we said already, each member of the discussed in those states, and we will repeat again that also each individual child, 700,000 per week, $700,000 per week needs to be distributed weekly, and promise of President Monson that for 1,000 years ahead, distributed any such saying there, it is not really equal opportunity. It's not true. It is equal opportunity. President Monson is going with such well. President Monson has got a large house, a kind of a large if you want. If you want a bungalow, you want a bungalow. If you want a 3 floors, a large villa. If you want a sleeper like villa, and if you want a house, and if you want some accommodation, so if you want to give housing or house some more of the employees, more of the family members, he is more than welcome to house. There's some more members where I see President Monson did administer death to his wife by the authority of the Supreme Lord Jesus Christ, in the name of Jesus Christ. President Monson was already causing Principal Joseph Monson to be dead. So we need to now ask Mr. Monson that he repents from, and if he houses there anybody in his closeness, that he will not misuse the name of Lord Jesus Christ again, but that he will administer their life and some systems and such now. Now, we have here for President Monson several activities in this time. In London, because we're now in London, Covent Garden, in Apple Store, we have temples. There's London Temple, beautiful business center, and it is beautiful. We are grateful to Supreme Lord and Supreme Yahweh, and also because this time is actually of Jesus Christ time, so it's not time of President Monson, but time of Jesus Christ, I meant. But President Monson was actually agreeing. There's a beautiful business center in London. I was born in a little city. It's only 100,000 citizens. With all the villages there, they was trying to stick to the city. 100,000, and it is named Brescia. And I was born there in Brescia. So I first at Brescia, right? Maybe in Brescia. And then I came up to London to continue from Brescia to London. So in London, I actually was told that I wanted to Salt Lake City, but President Hinckley and Monson, they agreed that I should be detained. So in 2005, I was coming to the American Embassy, was detained. In 2010, I received visas by American Embassy in Snow Republic. And as I went to New York International Airport of Johnson, Canada, I was detained. I was detained to Canada twice, and I don't want to explain to you what a terror by President Monson in Canada. In America, it was not as much terror, but also extremely much terror. I went to Israel, and there also the military of Israel was detaining me. So I, as Super Knuckles Baksay, was stylish on Zion, didn't wish such terrible hurricanes and such terrible wars to United States of America, Canada, and to Israel. But I actually want them, as I said, heavens on earth is in heaven, ascension to heaven. So please, if they can be some more hospitality to me, for I actually don't count the hurricanes nor wars of Israel, nor in United States of America, nor in Canada. But I wish they really hospitality to me that I might feel welcome. Now, as I was sacked from England ever, was happening, the police officers was posing me somewhere in Stevenage, and then Bishop of the Britannia ward in Hyperstate, he was so afraid for me, the police was opposing me, that he was taking me immediately out of England, and I was approximately 9 months no, because I came actually next week straight to England, but since then I was for about 8 months or 7 months away from England, and it was terrifying Orkana here, so I thought they evacuated me because Orkana. So what could we do with them? They wanted Orkana in London, but what? Let me know, because if I know about any Orkana coming or any hurricane or tornado, I'll tell you, and I'll cause you to be evacuated to my knowledge experience there, what I've seen in my vision there, what in Katrina or any other hurricanes or tornado did in the United America. The families was telling me there, we already partying, and then it became such a dark closed, and they still was holding all those items in their arms until they was dead. And that's what I thought. Yeah, we might rather have more beautiful views. That we might rather have more hospitality for Supreme Apostles of Supreme Jesus Christ and enjoy evacuation. So not to stay there in the house until they're dead, but to evacuate them. President Monson knew of all those hurricanes and tornadoes, could evacuate them, and is sitting there with his huge belly, and he's watching there like a little Buddha. And that's what I didn't want Monson to be Buddhist, nor to be Antichrist, but I'm not dumb Monson or crazy Monson, but I wanted Monson to be really supreme apostle, to administer heaven as heaven. That's not cruel sinners. It's not iniquity that he gives to people that are members of the Church of Jesus Christ, the saints. If they have children or not, if they're in conservative children or not, he was giving them homelessly. And it was happening more than 3 times to Monson. They did such things. And Monson said, I cannot control, or if he cannot control, why he's not giving the presidents to me? I'm really candidating for being president of the United States of America and president of First Presidency and above the quorum of First Presidency of Jesus Christ Association. I am above general authority, I'm supreme and supreme authority of Supreme Jesus Christ. So why is President Moses dictating from the United States of America and from the President's Church? Such a sort of wrong and ugly person as Monson with such a big belly that prohibits us fitness. So I was really fit as I came to church. I was almost Olympic winner. Almost. Also in running, I was up in the school. Also in reciting. I was up in school, and I was also Wing Chun martial art expert I was a bachelor, and I was also, according to the order of the grades in Wing Chun, and I was also a water rescue lifeguard, and I passed the tests quite goodly, so I was level bronze, so that's quite good, yeah. Level bronze, passed the test, good. We had some excellent, they was having better modes in swimming, because I, as Supreme Apostle Baksay, had greater position of First Presidency, so also with Slovaks, among Slovaks, even the all Slovaks was opposed by First Presidency, but First World War, Second World War, Cold War, and Yugoslavian War, there was also leading with bombers flying. There was American Mormons was flying with bombers over Slovaks to bombarding the Yugoslavians. That was also terrible for all of us, but nevertheless, I was under greater opposition as my mother died already in 1960. Actually, not my mother because I'm a son of God, but source of my mother. She was giving birth, and I was baptized and received the authority of and was ordained Supreme Apostle or Supreme of Jesus Christ. Men think the elder is not apostle, but I believe the apostle is elder, and elder is apostle, and that I am working on a project that members of the Church of Jesus Christ in the United States to ascend to heaven. I think, yeah, it's. You can remind from the London is a city with a temple. It is situated in Surrey, so that's where it came this popular word Surrey. I mean, a temple of Jesus Christ, Surrey. I will go to Surrey. I mean, last week I could not get there. I went to Surrey, but not as far as the temple. I went only about 20 kilometers, somewhere to Streatham, maybe 10 kilometers. We went by train, so it was together maybe 15, 20 kilometers. So the train is first turning west and then turning southeast again from Common Junction. So we now are thinking, what do we have in London? So we have a temple with business center. We have business center at the exhibition road with president. We have there about 2 presidents, mission president. Who's the mission president there? Jordan. So he is also terrorist, so I could not rescue him from terror. Now there's the mission president Phillips, also terrorist. So he was killing about 60 British soldiers somewhere, or 50. And I was actually proposing that there is peace and religious guys haven't heaven, but they all proposed that I to be sort of detained from church, and then consequently they did have these terrible sacrifices to do. And I'm not sure how many people they killed altogether, but I think from now on they can be heaven to us in heaven and ascension to heaven. I hope that the Mid-Middle Church find out because there is liberty in Europe Union and Orthodox Catholic organization, and also in the American Constitution it needs to be the order that to church people are permitted if they are members of the church, if they are members of the priest quorum in the church, they still permit the church. And if management of the church is misusing goodness of police officers and police forces or their naivety or their unpreparedness against any member to dismiss them and detain them from the church, there need to be a royal court of justice in England or international court of justice if it is international affair, taking it as important, more important than others, because if we have church in order, we have also whole country in order. But if we trespassing against utilities of Jesus Christ, of members of the church, or the others, then we're trespassing against Jesus, and then there is not as perfect order of Jesus Christ. I am here to administer to you translation to heaven's glory. Heaven's on earth is in heaven, and ascension to heaven. I'm speaking about that heaven that is the highest heaven where Jesus Christ went to see his Father. So we can, and in Christmas carol, we can remember what is actually spoken there in Christmas carol. And Jesus Christ is leading his people on to the place where he's gone, on to David's royal city, David's city. So we actually believe that it is true that we shall ascend to heaven with this narrow path of our happiness is straight to heaven. It was happening to some people that it was commanded some way to walk for 2 to 3 miles, but then they will ascend. If they can obey please. If they couldn't obey, ask for mercy, ask for compassion. Jesus Christ is generous and forgiving, and Jesus Christ might give you also more options than just one. To go into the path of darkness and get them to light. So Jesus Christ might get you light and walk in light until you ascend to heaven. So this is approximately what I'm blessing you with, also with quality, also comfort, also evacuations from the places that out to be evacuated because volcano or hurricane or tornado or earthquake or atomic explosion on the ocean, tsunami or nuclear attack or whatsoever. I believe the people should be evacuated in a safe place in safety. So trust me, the Paulo president was better than President in town President George W. Bush, better than President Hinckley time, better than in those times of Jesus Christ when they was presiding. I will preside better. But I was sustaining them also from their sins at the time. I was showing them approximately that I am really supreme apostle, that I do believe in Jesus Christ, I do believe in those teachings of Jesus Christ, that are taught in the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints, partially they teach me correct. This part that those general Mormons, those that they was forbidden to preach, they went to war and they was killing Lamanites. Also those, that's how Mormon wild place, wild beasts, and good water. So that water after water, good again, so good water, good. So that how can we then understand language? So let us believe, brothers and sisters, that we shall obey me, that we shall elect me, that we shall grant me election instead of this detention election, and I will be really good as American president. I'll be so good also to Russians. The Russians will also gladly have referendum and plebiscite. The Russian Federation will have United States with Alaska. We can then change the name of United States of America to United States of Alaska, as Russians has given Alaska and was not killing as many Americans as the British or Mexicans did. Mexicans, they was trying Spanish language and was killing Americans. And British, they was trying the English language and was killing Americans. And Russians, they really was much friendlier. The battles was only minor, sometimes later in the Cold War. And I'm sure the Russians are pretty much friendly to us America. So maybe that's the last later, his our president and Russians with us, wonderful friends, and we with Russia. And Europe Union might also join, so it will be such a northern hemisphere. It will be United States of Alaska, Europe Union inclusive, and it will be so beautiful to have heaven tonight, and we have such heaven now. In London, we also have Family History Center. And it is somewhere in very hidden place, hidden place. It is the National Archives, so it's such a sort of pervert pyramid building. So a pyramid that is not set on a base that is very bright on the bottom, but it is a pyramid that is actually turned over, and that's with a few gardens. So there's actually the small base of the peak of pyramid is at the bottom, and then the large bright base of the pyramid is on top as a roof, and there is a family history center, situated like in a bunker with the military bunkers in the Second World War around. As you see, there's a military bunkers that was coming there. So here in England, there's military bunkers, but I was also in Denmark. They also had some military bunkers. So let us say that this architecture has also some importance. Maybe later they might be changed for some toys and children not, because some of them are very close to railway. So that's maybe too close for having their child toys or play stands for children. But what we can mention that we also have Book of Mormon musical. So President Thomas Monson, since he's president, He was maybe hiding Family History Center from High Park State Building, Summer Tree Gardens. That's another mission. That's another stake. So maybe because they was looking forward to descending from the Hyper Stake. Well, that's I'm sorry because there was causing for the monsoon many losses and all the churches burdened with those grievous burdens and the gradients to be born and grievous yokes, and that was not mine. That was not my motion. It was really Monson's motion. That Monson was really demon, about 30 demons, and it was mentioned them also in General Conference, and that's really Monson. It was 30 demons, and he was opposing my membership and my full fellowship, and he crazy Monson, crazy President Thomas Spencer Monson, who killed his wife Frances by some magic of the witchcraft that he learned in the church. He is still alive and still does this partisan piracy, and he is iniquity. Iniquitous and killing animals and cruel and orders the church with all these wars that are consequences, or with criminality consequences. Let us now believe that this Book of Mormon musical thing is good. There is introduction to Hitler, Adolf Hitler as a very good friend to President Monson. There was helping American Mormons to be Mormon mutant Nazis, and there was organizing with Adolf Hitler to kill many Germans because it was very beautiful. And with Adolf Hitler was agreeing that Adolf Hitler will be sorts of communists, sorts of atheists, but killing communists too because they're very white and very Europeans, and killing many people in the European Union, inclusive the England, people that lived in London and other cities. And Adolf Hitler was really accomplishing with Mormons together, killing of many Mormons too. And also some American Mormons needed to come here, and even President Thomas Spencer Monson personally was organizing some nuclear attacks on Japan. So not only Europe to be attacked, but also in Asia, also Japan. And in China there was also battles too. So China was also attacked by President Monson. So what can we do now in this time to forgive President Thomas Spencer Monson and his supporters that support him in those sins? So we need to support them from their sins. So I'm actually lifting my hand. I really support organization of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but from their sins. So I'm actually lifting my hand to call help of Jesus Christ that if they do sins that are by the rule where it's much be much is required, they will need to restitute any iniquity yes, sin. And if we are already in office of president of first presidency, any iniquity is much greater than man think. So $700,000 equivalent per week per member and per each record child in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's really necessity and national minimum by responsibility of the government of the church. We are a nation, we are kingdom of heaven and earth, we have citizenship, and we need to have some more love to God and to all men. So let us sing now. I was already noting that there was a beautiful hymn sung by Mormon Tabernacle Choir at the General Conference April 2014. I was applying to marry Lindsay as a Brinton, so I think that the hymn was not as beautiful as Lindsay as Brinton. Because I believe that Lindsay as Brinton is the most beautiful woman on earth. Maybe also in all history of America, so all eternity, as I believe that Lindsay will repent and will obey not Monson anymore, because I was calling upon her to be my wife in 2007, and now it's 2014, 6 years and a few months later, and Lindsay's still with Monson, hiding herself somewhere behind a barrier of military police. So I'm saying that if she doesn't want to marry me, that she can just let me know and I'll investigate someone else. And I was also, if she was not answering at all, I was also investigating someone else. But I found her still so beautiful as I seen the image that she was serving a mission in Sweden, and she was showing her face and video on YouTube. So if she would like to repent from those Monson sins, I hope that she will come as soon as possible. The Monson will not tyrannize her as American citizens. She's American junior niece. She's covers the new era. She's president of high school students since 2007, 2008, and Utah junior miss 2008, 2007. She's very famous pianist, basketballist. She's very famous tennis of the Harvard University, and she's a Brigham University student. She was a missionary of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Sweden. So if she later marry me, I'm super opposed. But anybody who will refer me, we have already 1 hour this video. I think that is better than any epic movie, any better than any television series. I believe that this is really the most glorious piece of cinematography throughout all eternity, except Jesus Christ himself physically appeared. I believe this is really the most perfect movie, or belongs to those first three most perfect movies. Has to be striving to translate. It's also meant to have a story that might sent to heaven. But they saying that Lindsay slim, that I am some of her some more fat, so that's only temporal